To the way we've done in the past and the way most editorial boards. Oops, crap. Push the red button. I hope. Give me just a sec.
Sure.
Record. That's what we want.
Okay, sure.
What we do is this is basically a question and answer session, and we do make an audio recording. It's an iPod, but with a recording attachment. So
Little dilly. Okay.
It makes a digital recording. We use
Sure.
it to augment our notes. We also put it up on our website and as a podcast on iTunes store, free podcast. We do one question in video and also put it on the website and iTunes store. We don't do the whole thing in video. It makes too big of a file to download and so forth.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah.
So, but for people who really want to study the race, they have the whole audio there, and
Yeah, and I think if people are really students, they can go to my website, the johnrussell4congress.com. There's probably about 100 pages there for people to look at.
Well, that's good. Just one is helpful when a website's detailed like that. Well, why don't we get started? The way we start is I'll introduce myself, and then Bill and Lonnie, and then you, and then I'll start asking some questions.
Okay, that sounds good. Alrighty.
And the video question will probably be the second question. I have to turn on the light, which is pretty bright, but it's not like a spotlight.
No problemo.
All right, I'm Glenn Marston. I'm the editorial page editor.
I'm Bill Ruffty, the political editor.
Lonnie Brown, associate editor.
Alrighty. Pleasure to meet you guys. Pleasure to be here this morning.
And you are?
John Russell. I am a Democratic candidate for Congress in Florida's Congressional District 5, and we're working once again to unseat Ginny Brown-Waite.
Well, thanks very much for coming to see us. Glad you're here. First question, why are you running, and what do you hope to accomplish?
Key question, why are you running? Well, I wasn't really planning on running this time, but events kind of took on their own inertia. I received a lot of emails from veterans who were concerned about how they weren't being served. That was certainly a motivating factor, and also I felt that the party certainly needed, as well as the people, needed a credible, no matter your party, needed a credible alternative to Ginny Brown-Waite in the general election. So I waited till the very end of qualifying when I saw that there was not someone who was available to compete against her effectively. I decided that I would do that, come into the fray once again. I am running because the people, and when you speak about the people, it's not just Ginny Brown-Waite, but that is who I'm hoping to unseat in the end here. But it's the people who are charged with representing ordinary, middle-class, working people's interests are not doing so. Corporate America is very well represented in Congress. Certainly my opponent, the incumbent, she represents well the oil industry and wanting to give tax credits for them to build refineries when they're the most profitable group, industry group in history. She wants to give, is a proponent of ethanol. Archer Daniels Midland Corporation benefiting from that. Well, we all know that anybody who's measured your gas mileage, ethanol-laced gasoline and straight gasoline, it's watered-down gasoline. Your mileage is considerably worse, and it is not a solution. When we talk about the veterans as well, the veterans really wanted mandatory funding of the Veterans Administration. She voted against that. I support that, and I've given you gentlemen some information regarding my very strong positions in supporting veterans, both new veterans and veterans of Vietnam and before. Also, when we talk about the pharmaceutical industry, people are concerned about health care, rising costs of pharmaceuticals. A woman spoke with me the other day. I was at a Rotary Club function, and after I spoke, she came to me and asked why Epigen and Neupogen, these hematopoietic drugs that help to increase blood cell production, important for people who are immunocompromised, like AIDS patients, as well as all the millions of people that are on dialysis. They get those with every treatment, and they're not covered. And then you talk about the Medicare Part D. She voted against price negotiation for the government with the pharmaceutical companies. So who are we supporting? Pharmaceutical companies. You look where the money comes from oil companies, pharmaceutical companies, the insurance industry. Neglected to mention that. Her support of this reinsurance scam, which is basically State Farm, for example, buys their reinsurance. The State Farm Florida buys reinsurance from the parent company, keeping profits high at the parent company, while also minimizing risk to the parent company and keeping premiums high for consumers. I have a national comprehensive homeowners insurance plan that would mandate dramatic drops in rates in return for capped risk for insurance companies. I'm a proponent, as a healthcare professional, a nurse practitioner, I'm a proponent of a national single-payer healthcare plan offering choice. If you have a private insurance and you want to keep it, fine, you can. But on the other hand, I think most people are going to be gravitating to an improved Medicare for All plan that offers affordable quality coverage to all Americans. If we're talking about we're going to reform healthcare, you want somebody with my background to be standing up for you to make sure that they don't cut areas that are important for your care. That's what I've been doing for my career, spanning some 25 years in healthcare in various positions. And those are the big start. Fundamentally, the Congresswoman has supported the war. She didn't vote for it, but she supported it going right along. And the war, the cost of the war, both from a social perspective, as a financial perspective, has acted to devalue the American dollar because it's been financed with foreign monies, China, $12 billion a month, and we have become a riskier economy in the world, and that has led to the devaluation of our dollar, and of course prices rise when your dollar is worth less. I can go on and on about the details. Most people understand that know me even slightly, understand that I am very well attuned to the details, both analysis of the problems as well as development of solutions that are real world, pragmatic, and presented in a way that people can understand no matter your background, and people understand we're in a bad position. One last point, and the real overriding point in this whole election discussion is there's someone responsible for where we are, and it's not the people sitting in this room. We haven't been elected to office. The people who have been in office, career politicians like Ginny Brown-Waite, as well as many Democrats sitting in the same position, those people are not feeling comfortable in this election because they know they're responsible, the public knows they're responsible, and as Ronald Reagan famously said, are you better off today than you were 4 years ago, 6 years ago, 2 years ago? And I think working people, middle-class America, is going to answer that question. I'll let them answer that question, but I think we know how people are going to answer that question. And I am offering an alternative to someone that worked for them, not be hand in glove with big business, working for my benefactors, to the disregard of ordinary citizens who Congress people are elected to represent.
All right, let me head on to the second question here and turn on give me just a second, turn on the video here. All right. Mr. Russell, are Iraq and Afghanistan or the economy the greatest issues that will face the next Congress, or something else?
The issue that will face the next Congress, it relates, all of those are interrelated. The economy is inextricably tied to our military operations. As I indicated in our prior discussion, the issue of how we've financed Iraq and Afghanistan, and indeed I was for going after Osama bin Laden in Afghanistan at the time. That was a reasonable use of our military resources. The adventure taking materials out of Afghanistan to go into Iraq, which has led to the never-ending occupation that has cost this country and has been described as costing this country up to $3 trillion when total cost, which is, and by any that is the gold standard economic measure, total cost. When we look at the back end with veterans costs, and even some not yet projected, like problems with veterans with depleted uranium, etc. This is what's killing our economy. The devaluation of the dollar, because America's economy has become a riskier economy for foreign investment, that has made our dollar weaker and made products and commodities like oil infinitely more expensive, is affecting everything from health care for people to jobs, investment by other countries in our economy, and to the disregard of investment that could have moved this economy, and indeed we could have led the world. The opportunity cost of our investment in Iraq has left us far behind on alternative energy, which could be an economic engine unprecedented in intensity for working America and in leading the world. We are now behind the world when it comes to alternative energy, and we need to change our direction. Fundamentally, that means putting America on a more level playing field by putting in place a national single-payer health care plan. We must have banking reform to, again, every 15 years or so we have a major debacle with shenanigans in banking that hurts working people. This is put, especially this economy in the 5th Congressional District, so reliant on development and transactions involving real estate that we have to make these changes in our broader economy in order and as well as diminish costs for the people that live here. Their costs have gone up. People move to Florida with a set income relatively. They may have had a pension, may have Social Security, but what happens is that people came down here, they thought they were going to have a nice life, and what's happened, their costs have gone through the roof. Florida is not on an even playing field with the rest of the country because of this insurance and this unreasonably high risk associated with hurricanes here. We need to spread risk for all America amongst all of its citizens, and that involves a national comprehensive catastrophic insurance plan, one that I have, one that my opponent does not, and have someone in Congress, number one, who has a backbone, is objective, and is looking out for the needs of citizens rather than their financial benefactors, the hand-in-glove relationship. This is fundamental, where you have Congress people, not just the Congresswoman, but she is a primo example of this, being hand-in-glove with the insurance industry, the banking industry, the oil industry, the pharmaceutical industry. This is where we are. It's because of this kind of relationship across this country in our legislative branch that's put us where we are. So I offer backbone, objective decision making, a responsiveness to people no matter your party, no matter your color, no matter your culture, no matter your religion. When you call my office, you're going to get equal and vigorous research into your problem, which is not what I have heard from people in major industries that have had meetings in her office in Washington, to people who have just called her office, that if you're going to be a special interest kind of person, you're going to get good treatment. You know, you're not elected to Congress. Probably the best way to say this, no one is elected to Congress to do favors for people, for special people, and in return, they wear a t-shirt, they speak out for you at forums or whatever. You're elected to Congress to make policy for this country. That's what the United States representative's job is, to make policy for the United States of America through the legislative process. And if you're there and you're either going along following blindly your party line without questioning, or if you're just inactive, period, or you're activist in another direction that doesn't benefit the consumer, the rank and file members of your community, then you're not doing your job. And so when I say that I am here running for Congress once again because those who are charged with representing my interests clearly are not, then I don't think there is any dispute that I'm absolutely correct in my assessment, and that is why I'm sitting here today. I'm asking you folks to vote for an opportunity to change the direction of this country, to benefit you and your children and your grandchildren to have a better life going forward.
All right, thank you. And give me just a second to switch this gear off and we'll continue.
Okay.
What is your greatest accomplishment, either professionally or personally?
Well, I guess I look more at the journey rather than individual points in time. I think certainly there's a cascade of accomplishments that puts you into a certain place in time. I'm very proud of my academic achievements. I'm proud of, I guess my standing up for people is where I've evolved to this point in time where I find myself in a position of potentially being someone who will represent the interests of over 500,000 people, which I believe to be not an expectation, but an honored position to, if you have the opportunity to be elected and do that. I don't believe that all those who are in that position see it in the same light. I've certainly saved people's lives, and at that moment, when you do that, when you pull that off, when you've intervened in a timely fashion to reverse the course of someone leaving this world or staying, and I've had that opportunity on many occasions, there is a great sense of accomplishment at that very moment. But it's not a pinnacle in history. It's moments that occur that require intelligence, preparation to allow you to see what's going on and to make the experience to make those critical decisions that in a moment can change the direction of someone's life in an intensive care unit, in an emergency room. These are the having to make these decisions prepares me well for what I'm trying to do.
And you were, and I think you did explain, you were referring to your medical work.
Yeah, I mean that's absolutely, as working in the critical care field. You have the chance to intervene. Sometimes days are boring. Boredom is good in that place. Okay, but when things happen, it's the person who is astute and notices the subtle changes before we move too far down the road that allows us oftentimes to stop bad things from happening. So that's what I do. And indeed, I've saved a couple of guys over at the James Haley VA Medical Center when I worked there under contract in the emergency room last year in the fall. Saved a couple of guys, through my direct intervention. Okay,
That's great.
Okay, so I don't know how they ended up eventually, but at the moment I saved them. So.
Well, hopefully well. Hopefully they ended up well. That's what I mean to say. There's a flip side to the question, and that is, what has been your greatest failure or the greatest difficulty that you faced?
I did have some, certainly, difficulty, as many people do, but from that difficulty I gained understanding in the care for my mother as her Alzheimer's memory disorder evolved, and eventually we ended up putting her in placing her in a nursing facility that, by my assessment, has just done a wonderful job with her and the people she lives with over there. But it's very difficult as you move across those boundaries, and it's difficult even to see, even being a healthcare professional as such as myself, you know, how difficult it is to navigate these waters and trying to find people to help you out. And, you know, am I okay to do this, or do I need to do that, or what? It's very difficult. So this is a problem that is growing growing exponentially here with the aging of our population, and we see the demand for health care and for social services to assist families in this who are not prepared for this sort of situation. So that's not a failing, but a very difficult time. My mother's doing very well, and you know, I'm very happy about that, and I hope she you know, continues to do well. There are no guarantees. Failings. I think we all fail on a daily basis, one way or another. I can certainly say the wrong thing from time to time. It's certainly been, there's been a lot of, I will say, embellishment. Do I wish sometimes I've done things a little differently? Sure, I think everybody does. On some issues, being critical of certain people in my party and, you know, exposing that a little bit. I don't know how those things could be handled differently and avoid the truth. I'm a guy who's about what is right and what is not. And a person wrote a column about me in the Hernando Today. I think it's appearing in Hernando Today, paper today, and called me a warrior for peace. Well, I'm standing up for those. I have certain abilities based on my academic accomplishments, my experience in life, my courage gained through experience in dealing with people who professionally are more powerful than I, but who listen to what I have to say because they respect what it is I know and respect me for always doing the right thing. This is in healthcare. And with that respect gained, and you see this within yourself, you see how people react to you in a professional environment and listen to you and follow your direction. Doctors following my directions that I give them based on my assessment. I say, I think Joe Smith needs this or that, or we got to check into this, we got to do, and they write the order for it based on what I have to say because they respect my abilities. The same sorts of background, and it's more difficult to get through to hundreds of thousands of people, especially when you have other interests working against you. Be they the congresswoman with a lot more financial resources who may be trying to put out a message that is certainly to distort what I'm about. Even media sources that, certain reporters that do more science fiction writing, not speaking anything about here, but do more science fiction writing than writing the truth. I know the difference between reporting and editorializing. And so I've had to deal with those things, especially the misrepresentation of events that may or may not have occurred. And that's what I mean when they say may or may not. When you can take an insinuation concocted by the opposition and turn it into fact by a mere twist of the words or putting words in your mouth. So I am very much tuned to the process here. I'm here to provide solutions because I think if ever there was a point since I've been involved in this that people need solutions, this is the time. My website certainly has all the details. That the story is a simple one. The story is that people are reliant on those who write the laws and who are supposed to be representing their interests. And when they are not, bad things happen. And the bad things that have happened is our dollar's been devalued, our resources have been squandered when they could have been better invested elsewhere to move this country forward, and multiple generations forward, including those who've not even entered school yet. They're going to pay the cost of this poor investment made by our government in squandering of resources. And now we even see we have troops going into Georgia on a humanitarian mission. We dare not expand on where this might go in the next couple of months with naval task forces and such heading across the oceans of the world right as we speak. So things can get very dramatic very quickly, and I understand that. I think a lot of the public is beginning to understand that. I'm here to stand up for reason and thoughtfulness in government, as well as strength and conviction on my positions, and a willingness to work with the new people that are surely going to come into this Congress, both Democrats and Republicans being replaced because of what I've said before, the hand-in-glove relationship, corporate America, too cozy with the job, and not cozy enough with your constituents and what their needs are and serving them, but rather serving what's most beneficial to them. Self-serving people, they need to go, and we just need to have new people with a willingness to work hard on behalf of the strong values upon which this country was founded. And that's where I'm at. I don't know, where else you'd like to go, or if you're done, or what.
Nope. Let's run down some quick, kind of concise questions and answers. The hot button things, really.
Sure.
How about veterans issues? What might the House need to do about them?
We need to fully fund the Veterans Administration. We need to not be bandying about how we can make it more difficult for veterans to access their health care. We need to treat veterans equal. If you are in a combat zone and you're a National Guard person, you should be accorded the same benefits and dispensation as someone who's regular Army. You're in the same position as they. We should not be talking about deducting disability, military disability from Social Security or military pensions. In the private sector, these are two different animals. Disability is one thing, pensions are another. They should not be handled differently in our government. Fully funding the Veterans Administration, I think I mentioned, which the Congresswoman has voted against. We should not, the widow's tax, that should not be in place either. The veterans, as has been characterized to me by veterans.
Would you define the widow's tax for us?
When a widow of a veteran who is supposed to be getting their their husband's pension, okay, they actually cut that, I believe, when their husband dies, and then if they marry another guy, I believe they lose that. It's some combination of those issues. I can't have everything 100% up, but these people are complaining about it. women writing me emails, that are veterans and wives of former wives of veterans. So I have to respond. And the people who know the veterans issues the best are the veterans. It's very complex. I believe it's designed to be such to make it difficult for them to access it. Agent Orange, you got to pay $200 out of your own pocket to get tested for Agent Orange. Okay, big issue. And do you know if you're just a guy who was drafted and went over to Vietnam for 2 years and you're exposed to Agent Orange, it's not a service-related disability. It's service-related if you're a 20-year guy or if you're an officer. But if you just got drafted and went over there, it's not service-related. Big difference in the compensation.
What if you were enlisted but still you won, well, you don't call it a term, one go-around with the service?
Tour?
Yeah, tour. There you go. Thank you.
So, but you're still exposed nonetheless, and there's no way you can be exposed to Agent Orange unless it's in the service.
But you're saying that that's the same as the drafted example that you...
Yeah, I mean, anybody who wasn't like a career guy, you were just a guy out in the field, you went for a year or 2 years, whatever it is, and you're exposed to it all the same just as a guy who was a 20-year guy, went there and did his various tours through it, was a career guy versus an officer. I mean, how fair is that? You're still suffering the same deleterious effects on your health as the guy who was in there for 20 years.
The reason I asked is my brother-in-law was in that situation, but he was one tour in the Marines in Vietnam and recently diagnosed with Agent Orange related things, but they did treat him. So I was just
treat him, but it's the disability compensation number we're talking about. That was okay. what the issue was.
Can you explain a little bit more about that then?
There's a difference. I think it's something like the non-service related. It's a huge disparity in the number. It's like $900 a month, I think, for the non-service related, like $2,300 a month for service related. Okay, that's where the and I'm working with people here locally.
So you can get the medical treatment, but it's the ongoing.
Yeah, and of course getting the diagnosis. I said 30% of our homeless are veterans. So if you're, how do you go get tested when it costs $200? Not one of these guys isn't going to pull $200 out of their pocket to get tested. Okay, so I want to make sure, and I did give you all you guys a copy of my current veterans solutions, mm-hmm. and of course the tagging on of amendments and earmarks and so on to veterans bills, and it's using the veterans there. Nobody's going to vote against the veterans, so they throw this other stuff in there. Has nothing to do with the veterans, and I want to make that something that cannot happen.
Okay, we have a fairly substantial list and a fairly tight schedule, so
sure,
why don't we move on to free trade?
Free trade. Yeah, there needs to be a moratorium on any further of these so-called free trade agreements, because there's nothing free about them at all. These agreements, are basically have been designed going back to NAFTA. It's a means for American industry to commoditize their labor costs, and that is and to move their manufacturing. Form pre-NAFTA. If you're going to import something from Mexico, there's a big tariff on it, protecting American labor and industry. Got rid of those tariffs. American industry moved their manufacturing operations first to Mexico, but then to other places where, like Indonesia and China and so on, where the labor costs are even lower. So it's chasing labor as a commodity. And then they can re-import those goods manufactured down there into the United States with no tariffs. That's what free trade's all about. And so it's harmful to American labor. Just ask the auto workers who've gone from their good middle-class jobs down to working at McDonald's as their choices have been lost. And of course, then we're also having industry. This is corporatization of corporate America working with government to make things, to grease the rails for corporate America and their business operations. So you have no environmental laws. So you have little kids throwing through their backyard in Mexico, for example, dioxin Agent Orange, that's flowing, and they're playing in this stuff that's flowing because there's no environmental regulation, no labor regulations, so they're avoiding the labor regulations, the environmental regulations. Sweet deal for business, but it's not a sweet deal either for American labor or for the domestic labor in Mexico that's working for maybe a little better wages than they ordinarily would have had, but the cost is tremendous on their lives. And of course in Brooksville we've had a situation that has nothing to do with the free trade, but situation with regard to the public works facility there, where they're putting level 1 carcinogens into the soil for 20 years from that public works thing. And that's just another underrepresented community there being taken advantage of. That's another issue. It has nothing to do with free trade, but it just came to light as we're talking about this.
Well, it leads to the next question. Now, what about the environment?
Very strong environmentally. I just married an environmental scientist. Clearly, and in the paper here today,
and you're talking
oil,
about St. Pete Times.
This is St. Pete Times, where they're correcting, although not fully correcting. They really need to do a correction on the correction, because I'm not against oil drilling, just not drilling in sensitive areas in the Gulf. Okay, but it talks about right here, and I have another article here. Gulf rigs could tar both coasts, and then we have in today's August 14th paper. A report by Bush's own energy department said new drilling would not have a significant impact on prices until at least 2030. Yet this is what's being pushed in the media. And then we have over here, normal operations on an annual basis would put about 1.65 billion pounds per year of contaminants into the waters, which could lead to long-term regional degradation of offshore water quality. And here, of course, we see in this little picture here that diagrams the current flow, how if we have a mistake in the Gulf, it's going to go around and nail Fort Lauderdale, Jupiter, West Palm Beach, Miami, because that's how the water flows. So science is what needs to be taken into account. I'm big strong on alternative energy. I personally know two people right now who are doing gasoline hydrogen hybrids, on-demand hydrogen, okay, electrolysis of water, 20% at least. It's a demand issue, this oil problem. It's demand. And that's the quickest way to go after this, is with demand, cutting demand. So environment, very strong. We got to, what is Florida but the environment? That's the attraction, is the weather, the clean water, the fauna, the birds and everything. Where does that go? I was just in New Orleans. I got some video of the Mississippi River where they had that spill that cracked into the barge, okay? I saw it. It's a big mess. This is not where we have to go. We have to wean ourselves off of fossil fuels as quickly as possible, because that's why we're in Georgia, right? That's what this Georgia thing is all about. Pipeline going through there. So environment and energy and the economy are all directly related. We are behind Europe on solar and wind. The sun shines every day. The wind blows every day. You can go on YouTube and see all the things going on here. I believe, talking with some people that know a lot more about this than myself, you can run an automobile on about 60% hydrogen, 30% water to detent the octane of the hydrogen. Hydrogen burns in a flash, gasoline burns in a wave, and 10% gasoline for lubrication. There's an answer. If I'm not an engineer, but I can put this stuff together by talking to people, why are we going this direction? We're not going this direction because industry, particularly the oil industry, has the most to lose. They'll give lip service to alternative energy, but in giving lip service to alternative energy, that defies where they want this to go. Any major moves in alternative energy destroys their business model completely. And the price of this now appreciating commodity, which they do not want to sell. There's capped wells in Louisiana and Pennsylvania right now, first-hand accounts. They don't want to sell any more oil than they have to. If you control the supply, and that's what this lease issue is all about. If you control the supply, what do you control? The people answered this question for me last night in my little forum. You control the price. And that's what they want to do. And it is another fraud using basically the shock doctrine. If you're familiar with the book by Naomi Klein that talks about the tsunami in Indonesia, talks about Katrina, and also is totally analogous to what's going on with the oil, the gas price crisis right now. They're all the same, using fear to move through policy that under ordinary circumstances would not be capable of moving. And that's why you have the propaganda mouthpieces like Rush Limbaugh, Hannity, Schnitt, pushing drill, 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 and indeed Ginny Brown-Waite in her own memo, email right here, talks about drilling is her answer. She again gives lip service to alternative energy. She's been giving lip service to that. Where is leadership? A congressman has a lot of power. She doesn't use it. She is there for Ginny, and we need someone who's there for the people. I'm sorry, that's kind of harsh, but those are the facts.
Okay, well, let's try to hit a few more things. I think
Sure.
we got a couple minutes and
Yeah,
we'll
sure,
have to
sure,
wrap
sure,
up.
sure.
How about abortion? Where do you stand on that?
I am absolutely pro-choice, but there's a limit on this. It's fetal viability, and that's the limit. Roe v. Wade is settled law, and I will stand by settled law. And in my profession, I work with a lot of women. Okay. And I know very few women that want bureaucrats or men telling them what to do with their body, okay? And so I believe it's important that we respect settled law. Again, this is a driver that every election comes up and to move, away from, the real debate, but to kind of I guess tweak people and distract. So I'm for settled law, very, very simply.
Okay, how about gay rights? And I mean, depending on where you are on it, there are people for expansion of gay rights, gay marriage, and so forth, and maybe on the other side, contraction or elimination.
Yeah, and that again is another generally a distraction come election time. I am for everyone having, no one having their civil rights, how would we say? I'm usually not remiss for words here, but I want everyone to have, we should not be enshrining in our Constitution diminution of anyone's civil rights. Everyone should be treated equally unless they're in violation of some law. If you're not in violation of the law, if you're consenting adults, if you have lived for, the only point of negotiation when we talk about gay rights, and this is not just about gay rights, when we're talking about we have increasingly heterosexual couples who are cohabitating for decades, who are in the same position as gay couples, absolutely in the same position, and they don't have visitation rights in hospitals and so on and so forth. All the issues that are brought up.
So in other words, in general, they don't have the same sort of rights that
a married couple has.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, there's several hundred rights that come into play when you're married. And so the only issue of contention here for me on this is, at what point do we consider a couple eligible for all the rights of being married? Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years, or whatever? There used to be common law. So I don't know where that still is in play in other states or whatnot. But the bottom line is, at some point, people are cohabitating. They're not in violation of the law. If they seek to have these rights and they've met the very simple parameter of meeting a certain time frame, proving they're cohabitating or whatnot, then I think that they should be eligible for all the rights accorded a married couple. This is the 21st century. It's not the 18th century or 19th century. We should move forward, and as long as people are law-abiding, I don't think this is the biggest issue of the day. The biggest issue of the day is, as we talked before, economy, war, economy, healthcare, you know, jobs, and the future of America is at stake here. And I'm here to work towards making that future better, not worse.
A couple other things. What about family issues? And I mean the question broadly, but also concise. So, but I mean, there's any number of things that you could consider, but are there any that particularly pop up as important for you?
The most important issue, I believe, for family, when we talk about family issues, are the economic issues, the issues of employment for most, you know, most people among us, and healthcare, access to quality, affordable healthcare. You're talking to a guy who was just turned down by Humana, okay? Now, I can hit a golf ball 250 yards. I can, you know, play ice hockey with 20-year-olds, okay? I had a little tweak in my neck a couple of years ago. I got an MRI. They saw something in there, so we needed further investigation. We'll do a bone scan. We've got a hemangioma, hemangioma, which is just a collection of blood vessels that is very common throughout the body. No problem there. What they said was, well, he's got some degenerative joint disease. Well, any person over 50 years of age is going to have degenerative joint disease. That's a fact. And so they're using that in my case. But in someone else's case, they would just price you out. They had a way to pull me out, select me out. They select you out. It's basically selecting you out based on age. Okay? And this is part of the unfairness of this private insurance system, that they legally price you out by saying, oh, you're too risk. They said I was too big of a risk. And my genetic background goes into triple figures on both sides of my family. So, I mean, I'm not that big a risk. You know, I'm not a big user of health care. So, this is why we need a national single-payer health care plan that doesn't rely on profit for big companies. Fully 40% of we're the most costly healthcare system in the world, and we are not the best. No matter what Hannity wants to say or any of these guys, we do not have the best statistics. We're into, you know, somewhere way down the list, past 10th on the list overall, based on our statistics by which you compare our country's healthcare system to others around the world.
Okay, how about national infrastructure? Another broad question, but any
well, this is part of that. This is part of the disinvestment that has been this. You're putting all the money into Iraq. That is gonna be the. It's gonna be the debit that keeps on debiting. Okay, this is the opportunity cost in economics. You choose to invest in one thing and you don't invest in another. This is why we need to get out of Iraq, and I support the 16-month paradigm that's been in play, give or take. We need to invest in this country. This is what's made our country great, has been all these investments that have come before. Revising our tax policy back to, I'm not going to raise anybody's taxes that's making over like $250,000 a year. People in the middle class need a tax cut. And a tax cut for everyone that I think is very viable, and I think most of us in this room can recall when credit card interest was deductible on your federal income tax. That in combination with banking reform. We can't let our banking system go down the tubes because we have people working it, you know what I mean? And that's why we're in this position. Mortgages, being sold like, sold up the river like, like vegetables or something. They get up there and, oh, this guy can't pay on his vegetables, whatever. That's a bad analogy, but yeah, you know what I mean. It's all based on commissions and the transactions, and so you just want to move it down the line, and finally this guy dumps it on, you're dumping it on this guy's lap, and all of a sudden the person at the beginning can't pay anymore. We need regulations, the deregulation. And this is not just in the Bush administration, this goes back to Clinton with Glass-Steagall. So those are some of the things I want to do that I think will move this country forward. An investment in alternative energy brings us the jobs of the future and helps us lead the world into a new energy age of cheap energy. And that's the problem. The oil industry doesn't want cheap energy. Hydrogen is the most common element on this planet. And it's infinitely renewable, doesn't go away. shortages that create that cause variations that lead to profit. So,
Two more questions for you. The line or Bill, you have anything you'd like to ask?
Well, John, yeah, I was going to ask you this. It's quite obvious, at least to me, that you're going to be the Democratic nominee. But I keep hearing so much that you have a problem with your temper. John's in your face. John had trouble at Disney. Is this just all a bunch of rumor that keeps rolling?
it is actually a created. This starts back last time, and I'm now an experienced candidate. Okay, people don't like it when you call them out. Even last night, when I mentioned a couple things in this little forum, the hissing started. But hissing is nothing. I had 50 people standing before me at these forums last time with their yellow shirts on, and we know whose those shirts those were.
Well, tell us anyway.
Screaming at Ginny Brown-Waite supporters, screaming at the top of their lungs every time I opened my mouth. So how do you handle that? Well, certainly the moderator wasn't handling that. And indeed, when I was interviewed at the Hernando Times, and Mr. Hamilton was one of the moderators, it's like, I mean, if I was smart, I should have said, when he asked me about it, the same sorts of questions, I should have said, well, for crying out loud, you're the moderator. What's your job as a moderator? I have never been a moderator, but the moderator is supposed to keep order, right? So, bottom line on that, yeah, I did tape Karen Thurman because I knew the answer she was going to give me. The people deserve to hear the answers about the $3,500 a month she's taking from Al Cardenas, former head of the Florida Republican Party. The people deserve to know what's going on. This is why we don't have any leverage. How are you going to compete against Republicans when you're taking money from Republicans? Doesn't make any sense to me. And yeah, I got kicked out of Disney because of that. I was a delegate. I don't know. Did I email you that? I'll email you the email from Cal Branch asking me for my $50 because I was a delegate. I signed a notarized statement saying I was a delegate to that convention that I got thrown out of.
And the convention was what?
In October of 2007, I think. I'm losing track.
Which convention was it?
Orlando State Party Convention, 2007.
Okay.
I can't. I was invited as a delegate, and I wasn't there 5 minutes, and I was attacked from behind by a 6'6" former second-rate pro wrestler. An older gentleman would have been on the floor with the force I was struck from behind. Okay, my girlfriend went to the bathroom. Now my wife, and the only problem was I didn't have this camera on before from the time I walked in the door. I didn't do anything. I had John Edwards signs because I was a supporter of John Edwards at the time. And I went up to Clint Curtis's table, and I've told this story a number of times. Went up to his table, and there was a guy there. He said, "Hey, John, how you doing? You're for Edwards." Well, these people over here, they're leaving. We can put Edwards signs on their table. Oh, I'm not doing any talking. This guy hauls me over to the table because he wanted the John Edwards signs, and the lady who had the table, who paid for the table, pulls out from under a piece of cloth. Oh, I see. I'm an Edwards supporter too. Shows me a bumper sticker. I introduce myself. As soon as I introduce myself, she's off like a shot. Now, I don't know what's going on. Okay? Well, the All Points Bulletin was out. If John Russell shows up, because I went after Karen Thurman, we're going to go after John Russell. So I got attacked from behind physically, and then the videotape starts, and there's various versions of that on the internet. You may or may not have seen them. Okay? Democratic Underground, there's one that does a kind of a funny takeoff on it, but using Triumph the Comic Insult Dog, little clips put together. But the bottom line is, I was attacked because that's only one part of it. The other part of it was they know that I would not in that convention. Karen Thurman, an attempt was made to oust her from her position for a variety of issues by Mr. Maurer from down in the Keys, and so they know, and that was drowned out using the same kinds of tactics that Ginny Brown-Waite used against me. And they know that I wouldn't put up with that kind of nonsense from Jeller and these people standing up there, supposed party leaders that are just, these are just people who are there to enshrine the status quo. So when you're not doing your job, you mess up the primary, the Democratic primary election for president. We all see what evolved from that, and we know where that came from. I've seen Karen Thurman going back talking about Hillary Clinton back in February of 2007, talking about her as the next nominee. Her, Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So I'm just standing up for what's right. I don't care what your party is. If you're not, certainly if you're playing, are you playing on my team or not? Are you playing on your team or not? I don't have a temper person. I've never been known as a person with a temper. Do I speak forcefully? Do I put out facts out there that people maybe don't want to hear? But facts, though, that people need to hear. The broader public needs to hear. And that's the problem with our system. It was said to me in one of these endorsements, or was it one of the stories on this, John doesn't play well with others. Well, maybe it's all the playing well with others that everyone is so cozy about up in Washington and Tallahassee that's gotten us into the position we find ourselves in. No, people unwilling to ask questions because they don't want their personal position to be threatened. Now, I don't personally care about my personal position. I care about the truth. And that's why they're putting this back in here in the paper today, because they inadvertently slipped in that I supported offshore oil drilling in combination with rapid transition to alternative energy. No, that's not what I said. I understand how some of this journalism works, and so they're trying to paint me, because that's the only club they have in the bag. It's the only club they have in the bag, is that John Russell is this personality. He screams. He gets into fisticuffs. I have never been arrested. I have never been in any altercation. I still to this day have yet to so much as touch Harvey Waite, when I was accused on one person's account, written in a story by Elena Leslie, that I somehow, by the Citrus County Chair, Bill Grant, somehow I took a swing at Harvey, after I just mopped the floor with Ginny Brown-Waite in our little forum up there. So I'm walking back through the audience, and Harvey Waite goes, "John, your nose is getting longer." He's sitting down. I turned around and I kind of smiled. And I was 6 feet away from him, and this guy bigger than you stands up and goes, John, watch yourself, watch yourself. I just kind of look. There's all kinds of sheriff's deputies all over the place. There's 350 people there. So do you think if I got in any kind of altercation, I would have been arrested or anything? There's cameras in there. But this is all there because the issues, she cannot stand on the issues. She needs a distraction. It's much worse now on the issues than last time. So I expect that exponentially greater is going to be this effort to try and I think, since I'm not going to be playing ball on this at all, I would not be surprised to be physically attacked at one of these forums so they can say that I was in a scuffle. Physically attacked. That is how bad this is. So last time they insinuate and so on, and they get people to write stories, friendly reporters or whatnot, and I've never done a thing. I've never done a thing. That's why I videotape everything. I'm in a place, got the video camera. You have to. So I don't have a temper. How could I survive? And I asked this, Hernando Times deal, which, how could I be in healthcare for 25 years? Taking care of critically ill people, little old ladies, half naked, talking to these people. I would not last a minute if I was so abusive and mean. And when I'm having to talk to people about making difficult decisions, like taking your son or daughter or your grandmother or your wife or husband off life support, I'm the one that does that. Not generally the doctor, it's me. And so if I'm this insensitive lout who is ready to throw a swing, I'm not a fighter. I'm an ice hockey player, but you know what? I usually end up having to throw the second punch because I'm not the guy that starts it. I've not been a fighter throughout my life. I got in a couple of fights when I was a little kid, and I learned my lesson that maybe that's not the smartest thing to do. But I have a strong voice. I have strong positions, and these are what make me the threat to the status quo. We're not just fighting Ginny Brown-Waite to get her out of there. We're fighting the status quo, which I said encompasses not just Republicans but Democrats. So I'm asking for the votes of Democrats and Republicans and independents this November if they want someone who's going to fight for them and not for big business. Does that answer your question, Bill, pretty well?
Yeah, but who was the pro wrestler who came up behind you?
Mitch Kates is the guy's name. Mitch Kates, who's been, he was Christine Jennings' campaign, you know, they've been trying to pump him up. He's Christine Jennings' campaign manager. He was like the co-producer of that convention thing that I went to. They just get, you know, put him in there, gave him that position. I mean, the guy literally is 6'6", 280. Okay, so I think if they wanted to, like, bait me into a fight, and I know they were baiting me to, you know, try and resist, then he could clobber me, and then I, you know, I mean, I know that. I mean, I'm not stupid. You'd think after I get clocked by this guy who's way bigger than myself that I'm going to, you know, take a swing at him? I mean, you got to be kidding me. I may talk strong, but I'm an adult. I'm not going to get into a physical confrontation. You know, I was attacked from behind, bam, you know, caught myself because I'm a fair athlete. And, you know, some other people said, well, you should have just fallen down on the ground. And, you know, that's not me. If I was a dishonest guy, yeah, that would have been the move to make. So, yeah, he was their person and was one of Karen Thurman's proteges, Allison Morano, that was supervising, and she's visible in the videotape of the incident. And you know, the only way that the only angle they have on me is that they can destroy me by pumping up this totally inaccurate portrayal of who I am. Yeah, I'm the kind of guy that America needs. I think, and a lot of other people think too, that you need someone who's going to stand up and ask questions. It's the not asking of questions that's put us in the position we're in. You know, got to go along. Got to go along to get along. I think we all understand that. I know that there's been some big changes in the news industry, and even so much as in 2 of my interviews, the first thing they started out with, yeah, there's been some big cuts. You know, I don't know what's going on here, but you know, you would think that you're starting to see all the chickens coming home to roost. The chickens are coming home to roost